Hello and welcome to Mr. Excel 101. In this video, I'm going to continue talking about data analysis. This time we're looking at averaging data and using the AverageIf formula. So I've got my same data set as before, where multiple people have completed two tests. If I want to find what the average score of those two tests were, so for Joe as an example, if I highlight the two cells, I can see in the bottom of my screen what the average is, 67.5. And if I want to highlight all of them, I can see the total average was 59.45. Whilst that gives me a good average for a fixed data set, it's important to use formulas for more robustness where the data set is changing. So if I add in a new column, which is called average score, make that a little bit bigger, then I can add in a formula to find the average between the two test scores by highlighting the range, closing the brackets, and hitting enter. Because I'm in a table, the formula that I enter in one row will be automatically applied to all rows in the table. So you can see here, these are everyone's averages between their two scores. If you're not using a table, if you hover over the bottom right-hand side of the cell and wait for a little black cross, you can either double-click or manually drag and drop your formula to all the applicable rows that require it. So that gives me the average score for each user between their test 1 and test 2 scores. What I want to know now is what's the overall test 1 average. So for that, if I go to my box over here and type in average, again I can open my brackets, choose my data range, close brackets and click enter, and I can find the average for test 1, which is 59.75. If I want to find the average, but actually I only want to find the average for the London entries, then I can use a slightly different formula, which is AverageIf and open brackets. So in this instance, the first thing I want to do is select the range. So what is the filter that we want to apply to the data set? So I'm going to select the nearest city and type in London as my criteria. And then the final bit is the average range, which is the value set that I actually want to average. Close brackets. So I can see here that my average for London is slightly lower than my overall average, and I've also got quite a lot of decimals onto this. So very quickly we can apply some formatting. So I can click on number there and use these two icons to increase or decrease the amount of decimal points that I have for my data entry. The final thing I want to look at is for my London average for test 1, but only for names that actually start with Joe. So in this instance, I'm again going to use AverageIf, but this time AverageIfs with an S on the end. And when we do use this formula, it's in a slightly different order. So in this instance, our average range comes first. So this is the data set that we want to find an average of. And then we put in our criteria. So we could have multiple criteria here. I'm going to use 2. So in the first instance, I'm going to apply the filter that we had before for London. And in my second instance, I'm going to filter for my name, and I'll initially filter that for Joe H. And click enter. So for my London entries where the name is equal to Joe H, I've got an answer of 56, and we can see that on the bottom there. If I don't want to restrict it to just Joe H and actually do it for all Joes, then I can stick an asterisk on the end of Joe, and that will pull up the average. And if I stick an asterisk on the beginning and lose the E, then I will now find all matches where Joe exists in the name, either at the beginning, the end, or anywhere in the middle. So I can just validate that answer by typing in Joe into my filter and also London, highlighting these cells, and you can see here I've got an average of 66.25. If I clear my formulas, my filters even, then we can see that matches what I've got there. Okay, thank you. For more content, please like and subscribe.